Hello and welcome to Creative Walk 16. This is Pedro Bonatto, and today I wanted to talk about something that happened today while I was walking around and buying some things for Christmas and random walks into a shopping mall. This is related actually to world music and mixing of cultures and all those things that I'm interested in. It happened in a very mundane place, which is on a shopping mall. The cool thing is that my wife and I decided to stop to eat at a specific Caucasian restaurant. And Caucasian in Eastern Europe has a totally different meaning than in the Western world. It doesn't mean a bunch of white supremacists. It's basically from a specific region here in Eastern Europe. And I really enjoyed the food. It still has a lot of elements that seemed a little bit Middle Eastern, but it has a little bit of a hint of like village life, and it also has even remnants of even Brazilian cuisine with their barbecues. So I thought it was kind of cool. But as we sat down to eat, again, this was in the food court in a major shopping mall here in Kyiv, I noticed that they were playing whatever tacky pop American music. And this is something that I always noticed. It happened in Brazil, it happened in Bulgaria, it happened in Italy, and certainly happens a lot here in Kyiv. You have a population that mainly speaks, in this case here, Russian and Ukrainian. And as in the majority of cases, they do not speak English. For the most part, I think because of the influence of the former Soviet Union, they actually don't have that many connections with a lot of American pop culture, at least compared to Brazil, for example, which is heavily influenced by American culture. But there was this pop song just playing there in the background. And I was thinking, wow, no one here speaks the language. There must be, 5, 6 people maybe around where I was that would understand the lyrics or would have any cultural context for the songs. But this happens all over the world, that American and British music, when you talk about rock and roll and all that, they dominate the airwaves no matter where you go. And then I was thinking, especially because I am so interested in world music and I have a band that tries to explore the connections between different cultures, how poor our culture is, our global culture is when it comes to music. We by default start putting out whatever music on the airwaves, and we start getting used to only listening to that style, that specific cadence, those specific instruments. And given a lifetime of this, you think that's what music is. And even worse, whenever you get in contact with music from other places, they sound a little bit off, or they sound exotic or foreign. And I was thinking how cool it would be if we were sitting there in that restaurant and we were actually listening to some Georgian or Uzbeki music or something that, of course, I would not be able to understand the language. And the people there in the majority of cases wouldn't either. But how much more interesting it would be if every place was influenced from the music from everywhere. Incidentally, I am not suggesting that nationalistic opposition to this posterization of music, which is like, oh, let's listen to the songs from our ancestors, or try to say, oh, this is our music and all that, because I think that just creates a different sort of problem. I think we should try to get the best from all places around the world. And this is something I noticed not only here, but basically in every country I ever visited, that people have an understanding, of course, of the music from their own place. So if you're Ukrainian, you'll listen to Ukrainian, Russian music, and then also American. And then if you're in Brazil, you'll listen to certain kinds of Brazilian music, and then also American and British. And the funny thing is that in this case, I don't think it is imposed by this monolithic imperial superpower that is trying to put their music everywhere, although they certainly are trying to export all sorts of things that they create. But I think it's sort of self-imposed, and I wonder if it's not just because, as if we are in Roman times and we were the barbarians that want to be Roman, but are we listening to all those songs from America and from Britain as a way to be a part of that? I am not sure. I really don't know why that happens. Or even when, in order to popularize the music from one place, we have to create quote-unquote dumbed-down versions with, electronic beats or a simplified version of harmonies to make it more palatable to quote-unquote general audiences. And I think in a way it's because they've been listening, even when they go to a shopping mall, they listen to the same kind of songs over and over and over again. At the same time, I mention this not as a critique of what other people are doing, but remembering this motto, this quote that I try to live by, that I think is really fascinating, that is, I critique by creating, meaning I will try to criticize something, not by saying you're doing it wrong, but by showing an alternative. And then I thought, I actually need to get back to my music making and trying to create music that bridges cultures, and not from a nationalistic way of viewing things, and not from against the empire way of thinking about things. This is not very well thought out just yet. I just thought it would be interesting to share with you. And so with that, go listen to some different music, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.